Fred Taylor's in the final 15. Fred Taylor's in the top 15. I mean, he's got no shot at making it this year. It would take a minor miracle for that to happen, but he's in the top 15. I did not see this coming. I take that as an absolute win. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, the channel where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jaguar09 representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the top 15 finalists. They were announced just a few days ago, and here I am making my predictions based on history, based on precedent, on who I think will be the final 5 of those 15. Now, for those who don't know how Hall of Fame voting works, it's very, very simple. There's a bunch of players that are eligible. You have to wait at least 5 years after you retire. After they list the players that are eligible, usually it's about 120 that they put on the initial ballot. They whittle that down to 25 semifinalists. Then it goes down to 15 finalists. So you have the ballot of about 120 players. Then it goes down to 25 semifinalists. Then down to 15 finalists. Those 15 get whittled down to 10. And then those 10 get whittled down to 5. They announced the 5 on the night of NFL Honors, the Thursday before the Super Bowl. And those are your final 5. And again, this is the modern era we're talking about. The senior committee, there's 3 guys that are inducted, that are nominees this year. They're all getting in. Sid McMichael of the Chicago Bears. You got Randy Grashar of the Denver Broncos, Art Powell of the Raiders, and the New York Titans. All very, very worthy candidates. They're all getting in. And Buddy Parker, the contributor/coach finalist for this year, he is getting in as well. So we're just talking about the modern era because if you're in the senior committee or you're the contributor, you are getting in no matter what. So I've listed all 15 finalists on the corner of the screen. You can see those here. And I've broken these down into 4 different categories. So you have the first ballot guys. You have the guys that made the final 10 last year. So these were guys that were the first cut last year, the final cut, I should say. They have the final 15, so they were finalists last year but didn't get into the top 10. And they have the others, and those are the guys that are not first ballot guys, but this is their first time in the room, their first time in the top 15. You might notice final 10, there's only 4 guys there. You would think there would be 5 there instead, because you figure if you final 10, 5 of them got in, 5 of them didn't. Well, that's because one of the final 10 last year was Dale Carter, and he is now no longer eligible to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His eligibility ran out, so he had to get in through the seniors committee. So that's why there's only 4 from the final 10 instead of 5, but that's the list right there. You've got your first ballot guys, your final 10, your final 15, and your others. And again, 5 guys will make it in. I think the easiest way to do this is to look at the others first. And before I even do that, everyone on this list, even if your opinion might disagree with me, besides Rodney Harrison, I would have no problem with any of these guys being in the Hall of Fame. I think they're all very, very worthy additions to the Hall. They're all fantastic players. I'm a believer of expanding the Hall just because we're inducting the same amount of guys now as we were back in the early 70s and the late 60s. In the late 60s, there were half the teams in the league and the rosters were smaller. So we've had more teams, but at the same time, we have not adjusted the Hall classes for that. So I really believe everyone on this list, besides Rodney Harrison, is a Hall of Famer in my book, and hopefully they all get in at some point. But looking at the others, you got Eric Allen, Fred Taylor, and Jari Evans. They got no shot this year. They got no shot. It's great that they are on the ballot in the final 15. They got their foot in the door, but I can't see how a non-first ballot guy leapfrogs anyone on this list. Usually, it takes a while once you get in the room. If you've been a semifinalist for years or you've been outside the semifinals for years and now you're in the finals, it is going to take a long time for you to get in. Their foot's in the door, which is great. Eric Allen, Fred Taylor, Jari Evans. It can definitely happen in the future. Jari Evans is definitely getting in at some point. When you're an offensive lineman getting into the final 15 in your second year, especially because offensive linemen do not get a lot of love by the committee, that's a good sign. Evans will get in at some point. This is not the year. Fred Taylor, again, the man wearing right here. I am happy he is in the final 15. I am shocked that he is in the final 15. Again, he's only made 1 Pro Bowl, and that was as an alternate in 2007 when Willie Parker was injured on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it put his stats in a bigger market where he gets more recognition. The same exact stats. He's in the Hall of Fame by this point, but I love the fact that Fred Taylor's in the final 15. He's not getting in this year, but first time in the final 15. Congratulations to him. And Eric Allen, same thing. Worthy addition to the Hall, but his first time on the final 15. He's not getting in. So the others I am pretty confident on. None of them will get in this year. Now, in terms of the first ballot guys, Antonio Gates, Julius Peppers, I would be shocked if both of them did not get in this year. I think they are both going to be first ballot additions to the Hall, and rightfully so. Julius Peppers, you've got a guy that is top 5 all-time in sacks. You've got a guy that's on multiple all-decade teams. You got a guy that was absolutely dominant, one of the best pass rushers of his era. I think he is a shoo-in to get in on the first ballot. Same thing with Antonio Gates. He is top of the league in just about every major category for a tight end from a receiving standpoint, one of the greatest receiving tight ends of all time. He should be a lock to be first ballot as well. So Antonio Gates, Julius Peppers, they should be in. Which leads us to, we have now 9 guys fighting for the final 3 spots. And this is where it gets a bit dicey. I think we can all agree that guys like Eric Allen, Fred Taylor, Jerry Evans, they're not getting in this year. And Antonio Gates, Julius Peppers, they probably will be getting in this year. This is where it gets tough. You got 9 guys fighting for the final 3 spots. Now, the easiest way for me to do this, there is a massive logjam at wide receiver. There has been for years. There are a lot of great receivers that have not gone their due in the Hall of Fame, have had to wait a long, long time to get in because of this logjam. Just going off of history, it would make sense that the player that was final 10 and made that last cut last year and the year before that will make the Hall of Fame this year. And there's only one guy that did that. The Hall of Fame committee has made it clear in terms of which receiver has priority, and that is Andre Johnson. I think Johnson will be the first true Texan inducted into the Hall of Fame, and that will happen this year. Andre Johnson was a top 10 finalist in 2022. Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt, they did not make it to the final 10 cutoff. He was also top 10 in 2023. He is the only guy on this list that was top 10 in both 2022 and 2023. The Hall of Fame has made it clear who is the top receiver left. Andre Johnson seems to be that guy. I think he probably would have gotten in last year, if not for the fact that he had multiple first ballot guys that had to leapfrog the line in terms of Darrelle Revis and Joe Thomas. So Andre Johnson, I think, gets in this year, and deservedly so. Now, what does it do for Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne? Do either of them get in this year? Well, unfortunately, I don't think either of them are getting in this year. If you look off of history, look off of precedent, the last time you had 2 wide receivers in this committee make it in the same class that were not first ballot guys, you got to go back to 1970 with Tom Fears and Pete Fios. You got to go all the way back more than half a century. The last time it happened, the AMC and the NFC did not exist yet. When they got inducted into the Hall of Fame, we had not played a season yet in the post-merger era. There is no precedent for this whatsoever. 2 receivers getting in the same class on the modern era side, it doesn't happen if one of them is not a first ballot guy. I know you had Randy Moss and T.O. making it in the same year, but Randy Moss was a first ballot guy. Torrey Holt, he's been a finalist for so many years now. He deserves to be in. Same thing with Reggie Wayne. He absolutely deserves to be in. But I think Andre Johnson has leapfrogged them just based on the fact that he was top 10 in 2022 and 2023. Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne were not top 10 in 2022. So Andre Johnson has priority. Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, just based off of precedent, I don't think they're getting in. I don't see the Hall inducting 2 receivers this year, especially since both of them won't be first ballot. And especially since you already have a pass-catching tight end getting in as well with Antonio Gates. Again, not saying it's right, not saying I agree with it, but just based off precedent, I don't see Torrey Holt or Reggie Wayne getting in. So in terms of the guys to be the final 10 last year, again, Andre Johnson we said was in. Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne we said are out just because of precedent. Dale Carter was final 10 last year, but he's no longer eligible. So that would probably mean that Jared Allen, by default, will get in the Hall of Fame this year. He was top 10 last year, one of the best pass rushers of his era, obviously. Dominant player with the Vikings. Also played with the Bears. That gives us 3 Bears players in the Hall with McMichael, with Allen, and with Peppers. But Jared Allen, I think this is the year that he gets in, and rightfully so, just by process of elimination, since they're not going to induct 2 receivers in the same class, if precedent's anything to go off of, and Jared Allen's the last one left. And that takes us to the final 5 guys fighting for 1 spot, and these are the guys that were top 15 last year. One of them probably gets in the Hall this year and jumps from 15 to the top 5. You got Willie Anderson, Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester, Patrick Willis, and Darren Woodson. Now, of these 5, I think Darren Woodson will probably be the most shocking in terms of getting into the Hall of Fame. I'm going to eliminate him right now just because he was a semifinalist in 2022, which means that last year was his first year in the door. He probably will have to wait just a bit longer Probably won't be able to leapfrog any of those guys. So Darren Woodson probably not making it this year. So we can narrow it down to those top four with Anderson, Freeney, Hester, and Willis. And of those four, only one of them was a top 10 finalist in 2022. Only one of them made it to the top 10 cut that year. They dropped down from the 10 to the 15 mark just because 2022 was not the strongest draft class. 2023 had a few first ballot guys. But there was only one guy that was top 10 in 2022, and that was Devin Hester. So logic would say that Devin Hester is above Willie Anderson and is above Patrick Willis because Hester was a top 10 finalist in 2022, and Anderson and Willis have never made it to the top 10 before, although this could be the year that they make it. So logic would say that this is the year for Devin Hester to make it. Obviously, maybe the greatest return man in the history of the NFL. His 2006 season might be the best season by any return man of all time. I know he played receiver. I know we don't count him as a receiver. We're counting him as a kick returner, punt returner. It's tough for special teams guys get in, but Hester was so electric and so prolific that I think this is the year Hester gets in, just based off of prior voting history. Again, you got a guy that was top 10 in 2022, and he should be in this year because the other guys, none of them have ever made it inside the top 10. In terms of my confidence level on these guys, Antonio Gates, Julius Peppers, I'm extremely confident on, 100%. Andre Johnson, I'd say about 90% confidence on that. Jared Allen, 75% confidence. Hester is the one I'm most iffy on in terms of who do I think makes it this year. I'd say 51%. I'm leaning more Hester than not, but I could easily see a guy like Dwight Freeney potentially taking over, although I'm not sure you induct 3 pass rushers in the same class. Not that that should be the justification for it. One of the things that might hurt Hester this year, I don't know if it's going to help or hurt him, but I think it might hurt him. And again, it's not a knock on him whatsoever. It's the fact that this could be a very Bears-heavy class. McMichael's getting in guaranteed. Again, senior committee, you're getting in if you're on that point. Julius Peppers was a Bear. He is getting in this year. Jared Allen, I'm pretty confident he's getting in. He was a Bear. Granted, people associate him with the Vikings and the Chiefs, but he did play for the Bears. So that's 3 Bears players that you're putting in the Hall of Fame this year. Are you going to put a 4th? I don't know. Again, that's not a knock on Hester. I don't think that should matter. I don't think that should win at all. But it's something that the committee could focus on, that you might have too many Bears in this class, a very Bears-centric class. Obviously, I think they're going to play the Hall of Fame game if that's the situation. But I think Hester gets in this year just because of how the voters voted on in 2022 compared to the other guys on the list. So, in terms of my final 5, my predictions, again, not what I want to happen. Look, if it were up to me, Fred Taylor would be in the Hall of Fame right now, but I know that's not going to happen. In terms of my predictions for the top 5 this year, we're going Antonio Gates, we're going Julius Peppers, we're going Jared Allen, we're going Andre Johnson, and we are going Devin Hester, and we will have to find out what happens that Thursday night before the Super Bowl with NFL honors. That's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. And if you like NFL history videos, go to my main channel, Jaguar Gator 9. We talk a lot about the history of the NFL on there. Until next time, I will see you guys soon. And as always, go Jags.